All right, Shalom. First and foremost, I want to give all praises, honor, and glory to Yahweh, Bahashim Yahweh Shai, Bahashim Rachaha Kodash. Double honors to the head apostle, Nettles, a great millstone, who rule well and teach well. This is the brother Mattathiah from the GMS Virginia camp, coming to you through the spirit and power of Yahweh, Bahashim Yahweh Shai. Yahweh being a true, holy, and powerful name of the Heavenly Father. Yahweh Shai being a true, holy, powerful name of his only begotten Son, whom this world ignorantly calls Jesus and Christ. Bahashim is in the name, and Lord willing, this is an edifying lesson. I want to touch on this video that you see on the screen entitled, this is Fox News, breaking news. FBI on high alert for Iranian drone attack in California. Okay. And, I just had something pop up on my the Ring camera community chat. Let me pull it up real quick. It says drones circling over the area. Anyone know why? Okay, so there's reports of drones, being flown in various different cities in Babylon the Great, which is America. And the FBI is warning, all right, and this is in California. FBI warns California officials of alleged drone attack plot. Okay, it says, let's back it up a little bit. It says we recently acquired information that as of early February 2026, Iran allegedly aspired to conduct a surprise attack using unmanned aerial vehicles from an unidentified vessel off the coast of the United States homeland, specifically against the unspecified targets in California. In the event that the U.S. conducted strikes against Iran, we have no additional information on the timing, method, target, or perpetrators of this alleged attack. And this is all allegedly, okay? Which, I believe something is in the works and plans by these wicked elites to perform, a false flag attack on the soils of America and point the finger at another nation, most likely Iran. Okay, because now we're coming up with information that supposedly drones have been stolen from a military base, right? Which we'll get to that video in a minute. But first, let's play a little bit of this news report right here.
An alleged Iranian surprise drone attack plot on a target in California in retaliation for the U.S. strikes on Iran.
Mark Meredith joins us live from Washington with all the details. Hi, Mark.
Carly and Todd, good alert for any potential terror attacks amid the war with Iran attacks.
So this is not just California. This is basically, all the cities in Babylon the Great are on high alert, for a possible air attack from an outside
air strikes
force
across the Middle East. Today, those concerns, a similar attack could be launched off U.S. shores. There was a bulletin issued a week ago, but it was not released publicly at first, which says we recently acquired information from early February of this year, or what allegedly aspired to conduct a surprise attack off the coast.
And I'm not, persuaded by, what they're saying in this report. Does Iran have technology that could possibly, do something like that on the soil of America? Maybe not. All right, I'm not convinced. Okay, I think this is all being set up for a false flag event to ultimately point the finger at Iran. Okay, or another nation very well siding with Iran. Okay, to justify this devil for what he's about to do. Okay.
Coast of the U.S. homeland, specifically against unspecified targets in California, in the event that the U.S. conducted strikes against Iran. We have no additional information on the timing, method, target, or perpetrators of this alleged attack. President Trump, he too was asked about this possibility on Wednesday.
Being investigated, but you have a lot of things happening, and all we can do is take them as they come. And the war itself is being prosecuted as well as anybody has ever seen. And this is other countries telling me too. Big countries, powerful countries. They said they've never seen anything like it.
The LA County Sheriff's Office also weighing in on this, saying in light of global events, the department remains at an elevated level of readiness and is maintaining increased vigilance as we continue to protect our residents.
Yeah, so the most fortified and protected nation on earth, so to speak, is in fear of unmanned drones, possibly doing missile strikes in America. Okay. Now, I want to go to this other video concerning this military base that was, broken into, and these drones were supposedly, allegedly stolen off this military base. And this is from Dabu 7. It says military drones stolen from U.S. base, doomsday plane spotted over California after drone threat. Now let's play a portion of this video right here because it goes into these, supposedly these military drones that were stolen from a military base over here in America.
All right, guys, we got several things going down here. One big thing is they're reporting that the U.S. Army has had multiple drones stolen off of a base in Kentucky. Now, the U.S. military is saying that 2 individuals stole 4 drones and that they're putting up a $5,000 reward for information leading to the arrest.
So these are the individuals that supposedly broke into a highly fortified, highly guarded, highly advanced with camera systems and all different types of technology to protect and prevent people from getting in, from doing these particular things. These are the individuals right here. This looks like a female. And this individual right here, broke in and stole military drones, and they're supposedly, quote unquote, they're still at large, right? And to add insult to injury, they're offering $5,000 for information. You can't make this shit up, right? $5,000? Come on, man. What you mean $5,000? I've seen higher rewards for civilian dispute situations over here, that when people are still at large and they're looking for, criminals with lesser offenses, right? So $5,000 for individuals that are supposedly, possibly the T word. Okay, let's keep going.
Of these 2 individuals, and you can see them in these images. You can see the car in the background. They say they made their escape in 2 different getaway cars, a light-colored 4-door sedan and a dark-colored 4-door pickup truck. The drones were taken between November 21st and November 24th of last year. So they're just now deciding to come out and say.
Right, so they're bringing up this is not even a recent event. This is from last year. They're just now bringing up information about, these drones that have been stolen, which makes no sense at all, right?
Say anything about this. To me, timing is everything. They've sat on this the entire time, not too concerned, but now all of a sudden they want the public to know that 4 drones are missing. 4 drones that are unmanned, that are capable of dropping weapons, grenades, explosives. They demonstrated this here recently at an event. Now, that's one situation where these drones are missing and they can be weaponized and used at any time for any kind of staged event. Then we have word of the doomsday plane being very active.
Yeah, keyword staged event. And I think that's what, Esau is got in the works right now. We very well could see a planned stage event of, black swan, false flag attack on the soils of America to point the finger, to justify the actions and the means of this devil and his involvement in this war. The beginning stages of what we're seeing of World Wars III. Okay, to push a draft, to put boots on the ground in Iran and various other nations. Whatever the case may be, Esau's definitely up to something, and he's always up to something. Let's go to 2 Corinthians chapter 2 and verse 11. It says, lest Satan should get an advantage of us, for we are not ignorant of his devices. Okay, we very well could see some type of attack, some type of strike, you know, something that's not organic, something that's planned. And then it's going to hit mainstream news. And guess who the finger is going to be pointed at? You can do the math on that.
Making rounds, and this comes on the heels of a threat being thrown out from Iran that they're going to hit the west coast of the United States. Some can try to blow this off, but the FBI actually went to all the police stations in California and were telling them, get ready for a drone attack because if it happens, it's going to be chaos. And you guys are going to have to deal with this on the ground, front and center. For people that want to just write things off and say it's not possible, they've got crappy.
Let's go to Matthew chapter 24. And let's go down to verse 4. And it says, And Yahushua answered and said unto them, Take heed that no man deceive you. For many shall come in my name, saying, I am Hamashiach, and shall deceive many. And ye shall hear of wars and rumors of wars. See that ye be not troubled. Okay, and this is the day and age and time that we're living in. All right, the wars and the rumors of wars. And what you're witnessing is the beginning stages of World War III, and it only can and will escalate from here. It says, Ye shall hear of wars and rumors of wars. See that ye be not troubled, for all these things must come to pass, but the end is not yet. Right? These things must come to pass. Okay, but the end is not yet. Before all out war, okay, can break loose concerning the involvement of all these nations and these intercontinental ballistic missiles, these nukes get shot off in high volume, the MOTB, which is the micro SIEB, has to be in play. All right. It says, For nation shall rise against nation. Are we not seeing that? Are we not seeing the nations being risen up, being gathered by Yahweh Bashim Yahushai? Okay. It says, For nation shall rise against nation, and kingdom against kingdom, and there shall be famines and pestilences and earthquakes in diverse places. All these are the beginning of sorrows. Okay, and now you've heard in the news that they're possibly going to send troops over to Iran and various different areas around Iran, right? You know, and you best believe there's going to be a great number of deaths concerning the United States, Israel, and these nations' involvement in this war.
Internet connection. How are they going to get drones all the way across half the world in the ocean? Well, they wouldn't. They would pull up in a boat and they would launch them, and this is a set up. A setup. You know, where things don't go down like they should, and it's only possible because someone let it happen. You know, with radar capabilities and tracking and all that stuff, like no one's going to be able to launch something halfway around the world and it traverse the ocean without being seen and hit us. That's not how they would do it. They would launch it from either off the coast or from right here within the country. Just start blowing stuff up. They've got millions of people here. Trump just came out in the video and was...
Yeah, you know, they're warning people of possible sleeper cell activity, you know, and everything's just coming full circle. Okay, we went back, as we remember back years ago when the borders were wide open and all these immigrants were, so-called immigrants, were welcome over here to Babylon the Great with open arms, that were given, you know, money, they were given food stamp cards, they were given houses, they were given asylum. All right, you know, they were given the utmost treatment before they were demonized. Well, it's everything's starting to make sense. Okay. The 15th chapter, and we're going to start in the 14th verse. It says, Woe to the world and them that dwell therein, for the sword and their destruction draweth nigh, and one people shall stand up and fight against another, and swords in their hands. And really what these wicked elites are doing, they're causing a disstability over here in America. You know, they're causing various different things to happen for these, you know, for all out chaos, okay, for the uprising of the people, and ultimately to usher in the MOTB, So all these things are strategically being done by these wicked elites. Not saying all their plans are going to according to how they expected it to go, right? But you best believe the things that you are seeing, Esau has planned for quite some time. It says, for the sword and the destruction draweth nigh, and one people shall stand up and fight against another, and the sword and swords in their hands, right? Going into these nations, being gathered together for battle, also going into civil war and race wars. People are not for the president, man. On a majority standpoint, people are against Donald Trump. All right, they're against this war. United States going over to Iran, okay, and their involvement in the defense of the state of Israel as well. Okay, soldiers are taking off their uniform. All right, they're saying we don't want to go fight for Israel. And why should we fight for Israel? All right, we stood up to, we signed up to defend the freedom and the souls of the America and the American people. Okay, so we're seeing this place being divided right before your eyes. It says, verse 16, for there shall be a sedition among men, and invading one another, they shall not regard their kings nor princes, and the course of their actions shall stand in their power. What do you think is going to happen if a false flag event takes place? Missile strikes, drone strikes happen on the soils of America. Okay, it's going to be all out chaos. And ultimately, a martial law will be declared. And you're going to see troops being dispersed in high volume in various different, well, basically all the cities in Babylon the Great. It says, verse 17, a man shall desire to go into a city and shall not be able. So while you having chaos happening over here in America, you're going to be having chaos happening in these other lands concerning World War III, right? It says, verse 18, for because of their pride, the city shall be troubled, the houses shall be destroyed, and men shall be afraid. A man shall have no pity upon his neighbor, but shall destroy their houses with the sword and spoil their goods because of the lack of bread and for great tribulation. And you're already seeing the price of things going up. Gas is rising. And these so-called experts really, they have no end date, okay, that they can set for the price of goods, for the price of gas, because everything ultimately is going to go up, with this involvement that United States has. But not just that, you have various different things economically that are shut down and are hindering, okay, oil, gas, all right. The price of goods are going up because now you have the Strait of Hormuz, being shut down. So a whole lot's going on. And it's going to not just affect the United States, it's going to affect these other nations as well. And ultimately, this is where America, Babylon the Great is headed. We're headed into the Civil War, the race wars, the rumors of wars. All right. The famine of bread, martial law, the government basically waging war on its citizens. Okay. These concentration camp facilities, these detainment camps, these ICE facilities were not set up and built and being built for no reason. Okay. And, this situation with Iran could very well affect the economy very, very drastically, which it already is affecting the economy, but we'll sit back and watch and see. But this could have a drastic impact in the coming weeks and months, the longer this situation goes on. Okay. It's the second Ezra 6:22. And suddenly shall the sown places appear unsown, the full storehouses shall suddenly be found empty. Now, your average everyday American, it never even came into their mind that the grocery store will one day be empty, that they wouldn't be able to go to the corner store, the market, the Kroger, the Walmart to get their various different items and the various different goods. Okay. It says, and the trumpet shall give a sound, which when every man heareth, they shall be suddenly afraid. This is the direction. This is the future of America. Let's go over to Ecclesiastes chapter 12, and let's go down to verse. Matter of fact, let's start in verse 1. It says, Remember now thy creator in the days of thy youth, while the evil days come not, nor the years draw nigh, when thou shalt say, I have no pleasure in them. Right? Scriptures speak about, returning back to Yahweh by Shem Yahweh Shai early. Okay? Not putting the Lord off from day to day. Because there's going to come a point in time where you're not going to have access to a lot of various different things. You're not going to have access to internet, electricity, even a roof over your head. Okay? It says, verse 2, while the sun or the light or the moon or the stars be not darkened, nor the clouds returned after the rain, and the day when the keepers of the house shall tremble, right? When things really pop off, these, high level characters, these leaders, these world leaders, all right, these individuals that you see on TV, okay, that push out orders, over here in America and these various other different lands as well. They're going to be under the ground. They're going to be in bunkers. They're going to be in hiding. Okay. It says, in the day when the keepers of the house shall tremble, and the strong men shall bow themselves, and the grinders cease, because they are few. And as you look out at America, the jobs, the hiring are getting lesser and lesser. People can't find work. People can't find jobs. You have this new term called the working class homeless. People are living out of their cars. People are living in tents. And this is only going to increase. And we told you so-called Negroes, Latinos, and Native Americans this was going to happen. All right? America was not going to get better. Why? Because it's in prophecy. Right? The scriptures speak about the virgin daughter of Babylon being brought down to the ground, being put in the dust. Okay? People are confused. They don't know what's going on. Hold on. Wait a minute. You know? It says, in the day when the keepers of the house shall tremble, and the strong men shall bow themselves, and the grinders cease, because they are few, and those that look out of the windows be darkened, and the doors shall be shut in the streets, when the sound of grinding is low, and he shall rise up at the voice of the bird, and all the daughters of music shall be brought low. So as you're having various different conflicts happening, around the world and these other nations, you're going to have conflicts and various different things happening on a very high level over here in Babylon the Great. Okay. Now let's play a little bit more of this video right here.
Los Angeles County. We're also hearing from the Democratic governor of California, Gavin Newsom, who says he's in constant coordination with his emergency team to monitor the Middle East. While we are not aware of any imminent threats at this time, we remain prepared for any emergency in our state. And while federal and state officials this morning are downplaying the risk of a surprise attack, there are still concerns for a sleeper cell attack somewhere in the U.S. and, of course, as Trey was just mentioning, throughout the Middle East.
Okay, so not only is there a concerns and high alert for a possible Iranian, quote unquote, drone strike, right? But also concerns of a sleeper cell attack in the United States. Let's go to Ephesians, the 5th chapter, and let's go down to the 15th verse, okay? Because Esau is definitely planning something. You definitely can see something happen on a major scale over here in America very, very soon. This is Ephesians 5:15. It says, see then that you walk circumspectly, not as fools, but as wise, Hey, we got to be circumspect. You got to be circumspect when you're out there teaching, out there in the highways and byways. Even when you're doing videos, you got to watch what you say. You got to watch what you say in public, okay? Esau is, hey, we know what this man's planning to do, concerning the men that stand stiffly for Yahweh Bashim Yahweh Shai, to stand stiffly for Yahweh or Yahweh Shai, those true, holy, and powerful names, and that are prophesying against this place. He's ultimately planning to demonize us on a very, very high level to justify him putting us in chains, throwing us in jail, and even putting us to death. Okay. It says, redeeming the time because the days are evil. These are evil times, bad times that we're living in. It says, wherefore be ye not unwise, but understanding what the will of the Lord is. Be ye not be not drunk with wine, wherein is excess, but be filled with the Spirit. Okay. So we got to be wise. We got to be circumspect. You know, especially when you're out there on the highways and hedges. Okay.
There certainly are those concerns. Mark Meredith, live for us in Washington. Mark, thank you. Let's bring in decorated Navy Top Gun graduate Wiz Buckley. Thank you so much for joining us. What should we know about this alert and the possibility of something like this actually happening?
Well, good morning, Carly. Always a possibility when you leave the southern border and wide open for the past 40 years. It's just an absolute disgrace. Not only wide open, but I remember Fox showing footage of the then Biden administration actually having forklifts lift up barbed wire that secured our border and letting people stream in. I had a buddy I flew Hornets with who, after he got off active duty, he flew for customs.
Yeah, this is all what these wicked elites want. This is all part of their plans. This is all part of the buildup and the lead up to a new world order. This stability, catastrophe, right? Instill fear in the minds of the people. This is all part of his agendas, his crisis actors. All right, they're working overtime. Esau's pushing his propaganda. You know, what you see in the news is being watered down or it's being overly escalated. All right, it's being portrayed, too much to the right or too much to the left, so to speak. Okay, we're not being given the accurate news for the most part. All right, and this is all going to keep continuing. This is only going to get worse. It's only going to escalate, even if we see some type of ceasefire or some type of de-escalation for a moment. It's only going to lead to a re-escalation, and even these experts are saying that. Even if a ceasefire agreement takes place, it's only going to lead to ultimately a re-escalation. So they really don't even want a ceasefire. They really want, this war to continue, so it can, in their eyes, take care of what is needed, eliminate the problem. This is First Peter chapter 5:8. It says, be sober, be vigilant, because your adversary, the devil, as a roaring lion, walketh about seeking whom he may devour. All right. So we got to be wise. And at the end of the day, no matter how much these people, all right, no matter how much Esau, Edom, and all these nations try, the end has already been set. You nations are being gathered together. Let's get that real quick. You nations are being gathered together for the battle of Armageddon. All right. Let's go to Joel, the third chapter. So no matter how much you try to be the next in power or to keep your power, it's not going to work. This is Joel chapter 3 and verse 1 and verse 2. It says, I will also gather all nations and will bring them down into the valley of Jehoshaphat and will plead with them there for my people. Yahweh's judgment. So these nations are being gathered together for war, for battle, ultimately for the judgment of Yahweh B'Shem Yahushua upon these nations. And these various nations think that they're going to accumulate together, come together, and they're going to be the next in power, and this, that, and so forth, because we're going to see a very, we're going to see escalation when these nations really get involved. We've heard of, some nations' involvement concerning nations that are back in Iran, nations that are siding with, Israel and United States, etc. But we're really going to see an escalation when we see these larger nations direct involvement and siding in World War III, okay, concerning China, concerning North Korea, and concerning Russia. Like it says, it speaks about in Ezekiel the 38th chapter. Russia is going to ultimately be a guard unto these smaller nations, okay? Because let's face it, Iran cannot take on the United States of America toe for toe. That's why this whole thing with these possible Iranian drone strikes is just a joke to me. You know, this great nation, the greatest so-called military on earth, can it's a makeshift plane, a $50,000-$60,000 drone can just fly in American airspace and do a strike, right? It says, I will also gather all nations and will bring them down into the valley of Yahweh Shaphat and will plead with them there for my people and for my heritage Israel, whom they have scattered among the nations and parted my land. So ultimately, these nations are being gathered together by Yahweh, by Shem Yahweh Shai. And in their minds, they're trying to do this strategically, economically. We got to get this because the oil, the money, various different agendas. We got to stop these nations from coming together. We got to stop this. All these various different motives that not just America, but these other nations have are all being put in the minds of these war top level leaders by the Heavenly Father Yahweh. Okay, the Most High controls all things. He controls the minds of these leaders. Let's go to Amos real quick, and we can close out on this. Let's go to Amos chapter 3 and verse 6. It says, shall a trumpet be blown in the city and the people not be afraid? Shall there be evil in a city and the Lord hath not done it? These various different things happening. People want to put the blame on Trump. People want to put the blame on Israel and Iran and all these other leaders, okay, concerning these missile strikes, these drone strikes, and catastrophe happening in Israel, catastrophe happening in Iran and various different nations and death, etc. But at the end of the day, it's the Heavenly Father Yahweh who's making and controlling all these things. And the majority of you so-called Negroes, Latinos, and Native Americans can't wrap your head around it. Okay. And another scripture came to mind. Let's close out on this, okay? Because the height of World War III, the height of World War III will be intercontinental ballistic warfare. All right. This is Isaiah chapter 9 and verse 5. It says, for every battle of the warrior is with confused noise and garments rolled in blood, but this shall be with burning fuel and fire. So this, battle is not going to be fought like the ancient wars, like the ancient battles, like the, battles in Afghanistan, Kuwait, World War II, World War One, Desert Storm. This battle is going to be fought very, very different, especially, the latter stages of it. Okay. Just like the scripture says, the first war was past, and let's get that real quick, so I don't want to butcher it. This is Revelation chapter 11 and verse 14, and it reads, the second woe is past, and behold, the third woe cometh quickly, right? Concerning World War III. All right. And you're witnessing the beginning stages of this World Wars III. Esau's talking about bringing back the draft. You have these troops that are regretting signing up for the military. They thought it was going to be a cakewalk. They thought, oh man, I'm going to get good insurance. I'm going to have great credit. They're going to pay for my college. What? I get a $10,000, $20,000 bonus. Man, I'm going to be able to get that car I always wanted. Right? All these various different things. I'm going to be able to get a great job. They never thought that one day they're going to be shipped off to a foreign land. They're going to be shipped off to the mountains in Iran. All right. They're going to be shipped off to these desolate, barren places, right? Let's read that one more time and we'll close out. This is Revelation 11 and 14. The second woe is past, and behold, the third woe cometh quickly. Now let's read that in NLT. The second terror is past, but look, the third terror is coming quickly. Lord willing, that was edifying. I want to give all praises, honor, and glory to Yahweh, Bahashim, Yahweh Shai, Bahashim, Ruchaha, Kodash. Double honors to the head apostle, Nettles, a great millstone, who rule well and teach well. To the next time, Shalom.